let me know if I don't see it. Okay, so our next assignment would be the price controls assignment. So you guys should be generally familiar at this point in time with price ceilings and price floors. And this is a relatively simple extension of um, stuff that you guys have seen before. The only difference is, instead of having the graph provided for you, you got to draw the graph out yourself. Otherwise, in that, things are the same. I will point out, though, that you got to be a little bit careful with Ignithium. And what I mean by that is that um, sometimes the price ceilings and price floors will be binding, and other times they won't. So you can't skip that step of your analysis, or you risk, um, you know, the whole thing blowing up. Because obviously, uh, whether or not the price ceiling or price floor is binding is essential to getting the right answer. So, um, okay, so let's go ahead and look at question number one. And let's see, Jewel, you here this morning?
Yeah, hi, I'm here.
Hi. Okay. So I'm gonna ask you to give comments on question number one. And what about you, Ricardo?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you to give questions on
Okay.
comments on question number one too. Okay. So let's go ahead and we'll work on question number one. And you guys can see there's a demand and supply system here, and it asks how much will be demanded at a price ceiling of 17. Okay, so I won't say anything more about it than that, and I'll let you guys work on it, and then we'll come back and see if we got the right answer. Okay, see you guys in a minute. Jewel, what'd you
Yeah.
come up with? And then Ricardo, pay attention. So
um, 11, 1147.5.
1147.5. At least it's a precise answer. So the next question I want to ask you is, did you graph it?
I did, yeah, but
Uh,
I'm
You want
still not 100% sure how to start graphing it yet. Like I did the price ceiling, but then,
to?
and then
Well,
I did the
oh, well, okay. So remember, confidence. Yes, I graphed it. Period. But you want to show us your graph? You have your camera?
No, my camera doesn't work. I'm sorry.
Oh, dang it.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe you could tell us a little bit about what you did graph then. So
Okay.
did you graph the demand
Yeah.
curve?
So I did the demand curve, and then I put the supply curve, and then in the middle, I did the price ceiling at the quantity of 17.
Okay. So let's take it step by step. So you drew the demand curve.
Yes.
What's your vertical intercept for the demand curve?
I'm not sure. I just did the
Ah,
I just did the price.
so see, yeah, if you do like, so that's why we kind of have to be, and I kind of honestly, so I do what is probably more correctly called an illustration,
Mm-hmm.
not a true graph, because a graph is, you plot the points.
Yeah.
So I ask you, but see, my illustrations have enough details in them that I can interpret everything that I need to interpret. I know enough about what's going on to know what's important and what's not, um, in order to solve these problems. But so a true graph, you would plot the points. Now, I would say a detailed illustration is probably the minimum that you're searching for. If you just draw a picture, then without many details, or an illustration without details, then you're not really going to help yourself very much.
Mm-hmm.
So so if you're gonna go ahead and graph the demand curve, w- and by graph we mean start to put some details in there. What's the first point you're gonna graph?
Um, the highest quantity
Uh, okay, that's fine. How are you gonna find that?
by solving the first the price the buyer is willing or
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'll tell you what. Instead of trying to search for the language, the thing to do is remember the demand equation here is just an equation, right? It's just we have PB is playing the role of Y and QB is playing the role of X. Do you remember,
mm-hmm.
like from, I don't know if you got it in eighth grade or ninth grade, but if you have an equation, you have a linear equation, how do you begin to graph it? You have to plot some points,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So you need your little T graph or your little, it's a table. It has a name. We call it the demand schedule, but you got to start plugging in X's and getting out Y's in order to do that.
Got
Um,
it. Okay,
and
that's what I
and if you don't,
uh-huh.
and I'll just be brutally honest, right? If you don't do it, you're just begging to repeat the course.
Yeah.
Okay. And I tell students this all the time because the thing is, this sort of course is not merciful. There's no way at the end of the day that the material that we cover, all of it ends up being essential for the stuff in the major,
Mm-hmm.
and the methods are just what they are. So there's no way for it to be like an easy um, intermediate micro course. And in particular, I'll tell you, you could talk to other students, upper division students, whatever, like when we go back to campus, whatever that is. But everybody who's an econ major usually has a story about intermediate micro.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh yeah, like that was just like, oh gosh. Even if they're a good student, they're like, oh, it was like so hard. And the level just goes up in terms of the level of detail and the sophistication of the methods that have to be employed. So, you know, uh, anyway, it's not too late. But if you're not doing this, this is what you got to do. You just got to be, dogged and methodical and do all your stuff. Because right now, just think about it. We're at the very beginning of the course, and I could show you some material that we're going to get to in just a couple weeks, but all of a sudden, it's just going to explode because it's like a math class in the sense that we build and build and build on what we did in earlier weeks. The other stuff doesn't go away, it just stays there. And so if you fall down at one level, then getting back is like two or three times as difficult. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, so graph it, and if you're going to graph a linear equation,
Mm-hmm.
um, what what points would you plot first?
I might have to do the table to
Yeah, we'll do it.
okay.
Table us up.
Hey, can you go to Ricardo?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead, table us up. We'll come back to you in just a minute.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Okay. So okay, Ricardo, you can take over.
Hello?
Yeah. Hey.
Okay.
So what'd you come up with?
So I'm still not really sure how to do it, but going from the question you're asking, first I would, graph the 2 points or the 2 lines, and then I would solve for the midpoint or like where they intersect, and then I
Yeah.
would
Okay.
plug in the price ceiling.
Oh, okay. So did you do any of that stuff yet?
I have it here, but I was actually doing it for the question I had on mine.
Oh no, but see, this is
Yeah,
you want to do the shared problem.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let me give you those numbers really quick.
Yeah, we do the shared problem together. So you can do the ones on your own. You probably were like, "Oh, well, I'll go and do this," you know. But it's okay. We're just starting this assignment. So,
They would intersect at 20.2 and 42.4.
okay. Do you have a camera you want to show us your graph?
I don't.
Okay.
I could
So,
draw, but then I'd have to share my screen, but I could draw one on my computer.
yeah, so it's fine. Just tell us, so vertical intercepts. What's the vertical intercept of the supply curve?
42.4.
No, that's not the vertical intercept. You're talking about the equilibrium point.
Oh, right, for price, or for the
Yeah,
price ceiling.
yeah, I said vertical intercept. See, probably what is goofing you up in part is the first part of this question is just asking you about demand and supply. You can ignore the price ceiling. Just graph demand and supply and then do what you were talking about, graph the equilibrium or, show the equilibrium point. It's just demand and supply with an equilibrium point. Boom. That's it. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Just ignore the price ceiling for a moment.
Okay.
Okay. So what about you, Joel? Are you back? Did you get
So
any?
I'm still figuring it out over here. I'll be right
Okay,
back.
okay, okay. Work
Oh
on it.
my God.
Okay, okay. So I'll take a volunteer. Is there anybody who'd like to volunteer and discuss their problem? Nobody's volunteering. Or maybe somebody's volunteering. They just put vol in the chat. Oh, Marlena. Okay, yeah. You probably know this stuff. You have an unfair advantage though. But okay, let's talk, Marlena.
Okay, hi.
Yeah, you're getting like a double dose of this. Um,
Uh,
yeah, but I will tell you this, that the two courses are gonna diverge soon.
okay,
So you're the only difference we're doing here is like we're doing the math, right?
yeah,
And they're not.
yeah.
Um, okay. So what do you got for us? So what do you have your screen? Do you want to graph it?
Yeah, I have a
Show us your
camera.
graph. Okay, your camera, yeah.
Okay,
It's easier to do that than share screen because share screen I have to make you a co-host and unmake you a co-host and just the way that they have the menu set up on Zoom, it's kind of a little bit of a pain. Okay, go Marlena. Okay, so yeah, so if everybody can see Marlena's graph, notice she has what we were talking about. You have the vertical intercept of the demand curve at 103, and then she has the vertical intercept of the supply curve at 2. Remember, the important points always to plot, right? Because these are straight lines, you need 2 points. You want to have the vertical and the horizontal intercepts. The vertical intercept is when Q is equal to 0 because we're graphing P on the vertical axis. So when Q is equal to the 0, then P is going to be equal to 103. Those are typical points that you would plot if it was just Y and X, right? And then to get the horizontal intercept where it intersects. Now Marlene doesn't have the horizontal intercept, but I would always graph the horizontal intercept as like my second point because that's what I want to do. Because it does become important in certain cases to make sure we have it. And in that case, right, I'd set P equal to 0, and then I would solve this equation for Q. So if P is equal to 0, do a little bit of algebra, and Q is going to be equal to 103 divided by 3, and that's going to be where the demand curve hits the horizontal axis. Now, for for the supply curve, right, we don't really need the horizontal intercept because it would be in, remember this is the first quadrant of the Cartesian plane, it would be in the second quadrant because the horizontal intercept would be negative. So I would also use that point for the horizontal intercept of the demand curve and plug that in as like my second point for the supply curve because see, you want them to be kind of at the same scale, and that would help me. And then Marlena has also the equilibrium point, so that's good. And I can't see, but Marlena, your equilibrium price is what?
It's 42.4.
Okay, so 42.4. So the equilibrium price is 42.4. And then, okay, Marlena, you want to chat with us for a minute?
Yeah.
So, and then notice your price ceiling is below the equilibrium price. So I ask the question, is this price ceiling binding or not binding?
It's binding.
Yeah, it's a binding price ceiling, right? Without the price ceiling, they would all be charging, buyers and sellers would be buying and selling at $42. And now the government comes in and says, no, you can't charge $42 for a haircut. The maximum price for a haircut is 17. And so everybody's got to lower their price. It changes their behavior. And then now how did you figure out at a price of 17, right? How did you answer the question?
So what I did was I took the equation for the demand curve, the 103 equals 103 minus 3 QB, and I set that equal to the price ceiling of 17, and then I solved for the QB.
Yeah, so yeah, you just substituted in this price ceiling price. You said, okay, if buyers face a price of 17, you plug that in for PB here, and then you find the resulting Q because that's just an equation with only one unknown. So you can just solve for it. And so it's going to be 103 minus 17 divided by 3. And what did you get?
I got 28.667.
Okay. Marlena and Jewel and Ricardo, good job, you guys and girls. Okay. Thanks a lot. Marlena, did you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay, great. Okay, Jewel, are you there?
Yes, hello.
Hey, so did you see what Marlena did?
I did. Yes.
Yeah.
I
And
did.
so that's kind of, like that's the gist of it is you want to graph out your equilibrium. If you don't graph the equilibrium, you could, solve it all algebraically, but I'll tell you a little bit later. We're going to start to identify areas of consumer and producer surplus and total surplus, net social benefit, and all that other stuff. And if you don't have the graph ready to go, then it's going to be hard to do that.
In all honesty, like this time or pretty much the past couple classes, I've been graphing out the graphs, but not to the point where it's like fully accurate. And now I know how to figure out the numbers of the graph. So
Yeah, and like I said, that there's that balance. I mean, we don't have to plot every single point, but we know based on context that like when you're gonna be asked a question, it's likely that it's gonna be important to know like the extent of demand. So those like 2 points, the vertical and the horizontal intercept, and kind of like the extent of supply. And then normally our questions involve something about the equilibrium. And I went over a little review right there with Marlena about price ceilings and price floors. But, the critical thing for binding and non-binding price ceilings or price floors is what is in this case, the price ceiling relative to the price that would exist in the market with no price ceiling regulation.
yeah.
So if you don't know the equilibrium price, you can't tell if the price ceiling is going to be binding or not, because a binding price ceiling is one that's below the existing equilibrium. If the price ceiling was set above the equilibrium, it wouldn't be binding and it wouldn't have any impact on the market. So Ignithium, I mean, we could sit here and we could hit reload, but my, experience in the past tells me about 1/6 of the time, Ignithium will give you a non-binding price ceiling. So if you don't check it, you just will be dead in the water. Because the answer is totally different. If it's non-binding, it does nothing. So non-binding means like it doesn't tie you up. You're free, and it's just like a free market equilibrium if the pricing is not binding. Okay, and what about you, Ricardo? How did you have any questions, Jewel, or are you good?
No, I'm good. Thank
No,
you.
I'm good.
Okay. So let's work on question number 2. Okay, yeah, so this one's a little bit different, right? It asks us about excess demand. Okay, so let's see. Okay. How about Priscilla Guerrera? You there? Priscilla? Okay. Let's see. And what? Oh, okay. So you have your mic this morning, Priscilla? And Sarah and Granny. You there?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So okay, Priscilla, Mike.
Sorry, yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Cool. All right. So go ahead and work on question number 2, and then I'll give you guys like 5 minutes, and then we'll talk about it. Okay. So let's see. Sarah, you want to walk us through what you did?
I'm still working on it, Professor.
Okay. Did you go ahead and graph the demand and supply?
I did the equation first.
Okay. So what about you, Priscilla? How are you doing?
So I kind of did the same thing as the first one.
Yeah.
I plugged in 21 to the demand equation and got 27.33.
Okay. So and I think so and I kind of expected this, but excess demand, that's different, right? So before we had the quantity demanded, but this is about this idea of excess demand. So probably yeah, something different. right? Do you remember the concept of excess demand? Do you remember that, Priscilla?
Um,
Well, I'll give you another word that's a synonym for excess demand, and it's shortage. What is that?
yeah,
What does like a shortage mean to you?
not enough.
Not enough, right? So if I went to um, Target at the beginning of the whole coronavirus pandemic, and I was like, I went to, this was a true story, right? Um, my sister called me, and she's like, I can't find toilet paper anywhere, right? That's a shortage.
Yeah,
Yeah, and do you know why it's a shortage? Why why? I mean, just walk me through that. There should be a little bit of intuition that should help you out. What does it
because
mean to you? Yeah, go ahead.
there's not enough supply, I guess.
Oh, okay. This is a thing. Now, if now language here is very subtle because, you know, this is a technical discipline. We're applied mathematicians. We're careful with our math, we're careful with our language. But if I say there's not enough supply, what does that mean, right? Well, first, I'm going to help you out a little bit if you're with me. When I say supply, right, I'm talking about the whole supply curve. So actually, if I say there's in econ speaking as an economist, if I say there's not enough supply, that doesn't really make sense, right? Um, but what you probably meant, which would have been fine if you would have said there wasn't enough supplied, right? Just that subtle change. Because like
Hmm.
here we say demanded because we talk about quantity demanded and quantity supplied, right? So yeah, but if what I said is what you meant, then yeah, totally, right? There wasn't enough
Yeah,
supply, there wasn't enough toilet paper supplied, right? Um, given the quantity of toilet paper that was, finish my sentence if you can, given the quantity of toilet paper that was
given,
demanded,
demanded. Sorry.
right? So we're comparing quantity supplied with quantity demanded. And when there's a shortage or there's excess demand, and I know that's funny language, but it's just common in the discipline. So familiarizing ourselves with the jargon in the discipline, that's part of our job. So um, yeah, so a shortage means that the quantity demanded is greater than the quantity supplied. And notice that that doesn't happen at the equilibrium price. This was my two fingers supposed to be, you know, where the lines cross. At the where the lines cross, quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied. So what's important here is that when we're comparing quantity demanded and quantity supplied and getting excess demand or a shortage, I'm going to say excess demand just because it's the language of the problem, but hopefully you mean you know at this point in time that that's exactly the same as saying shortage. So the important thing is that if there's excess demand, then the quantity demanded is greater than quantity supplied. But in order to indicate quantity demanded and quantity supplied, I need to talk about the what? About the price, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, you got the first part of it. I'm assuming your calculation was correct, but you substituted in 21 here for the price that the buyer was going to face, right?
Mhm.
And then you solved for the quantity demanded and found the quantity demanded at that price. So you've quantity demanded. So do you think you can finish it from there?
So would I just plug in 21 to the other equation and subtract it?
Well, yeah, so you put in 21 for the price that the seller's facing too, and then find out what their quantity supplied was, right? So you have to, again, do a little bit of algebra. I mean, what you did here is you had 21 is equal to 103 minus 3Q. So your resulting quantity demanded would have been 103 minus 21 divided by 3 would give you the quantity demanded. Over here, you have 21 is the price the suppliers are facing. That's the price on the demand curve. And you want to find out the quantity supplied. So it's going to be 21 minus 2, which is 19 divided by 2. And then that'll give you the resulting quantity supplied. So
9.5.
did you get those two numbers? Could you put them in the chat for us?
Yeah.
Quantity demanded is this, quantity supplied is that. And by the way, I saw your volunteering, Jacob, and I appreciate that. So we'll ask you if you agree with these numbers in just a minute. Okay. So what do you think of that, Jacob? Do you agree with those numbers? The quantity demanded and quantity supplied at the price ceiling price of 21. Okay, so Jacob says he agrees. So from that, Priscilla, then the excess demand should be how much?
$17.83.
Priscilla, good job. Ta-da, right? So pretty straightforward, right? So you just took the difference between that at a price of 21. There are, and I like to think about it this way, though it's not literally this way. Like it's like they're shoppers and each one buys one unit. We know that's not true, right? People could buy multiple units. That's okay. But it's easy if you think, oh, so what this means is at a price of 21, there are 27 shoppers out there trying to buy their toilet paper, right? But there are only 9 units on the shelf at a price of 21. And the retailers just run out. So, okay. So good job, Sarah, Priscilla, and Jacob. Good job, you guys. Do you guys have any questions for me? No? Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and